How does LSU's general manager spend the $40 million budget, revenue sharing, name, image, and likeness, that has been reported by multiple sources? Well, as he claims, better than everybody else. Let's talk about if he's right. What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you're into that, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question in the comments below. How good do you expect LSU's football team to be in 2026, given its general manager, Billy Glasscock, believes that they spent their money better than everybody else in 2025 at Ole Miss, and he is using the very same strategy at LSU, just with a bigger budget. One of the things I found interesting in this story that Wilson Alexander wrote after attending what was essentially a closed-door coaches clinic, where Glasscock got the floor to talk about how he approaches contract negotiations, how they approach players and agents, which I thought was really interesting stuff. And everybody's got a different formula for how they evaluate talent, but it's never been more important to have a general manager and a director of player personnel that see talent acquisition the same way and have a system that they trust to best spend the money that is necessary to get the talent that they think they need. And for LSU, it doesn't look like their system resembles anything other than a glorified recruiting board in as far as they give that player a grade. And that grade is based on a dollar value. That grade gets you to a dollar value, and they don't deviate from that dollar value. I think that's one way of doing it. It is also a way in which you get to say, hey, this is what I'm willing to pay you based on what we think you are. I don't care what anybody else thinks you are. I don't care what the market thinks you are. This is what I think. So last year, he gave an example of spending 81% of the budget for their roster at Ole Miss on their top 27 players. The cap is 105, right? That means that there are a lot of players that are tremendously underpaid. If you are spending all this money on your top 27, but your top 27 probably going to play the most snaps and have the most to say about how good you're going to be. And Ole Miss was very good last year. They made the college football playoff without even needing to set a foot in the conference championship game. And they won 2 college football playoff games, which is 2 more than Oklahoma's won in the last 5 times it's made the college football playoff, including a win over Georgia and just narrowly a loss to Miami. So it worked, right? Going into 2026, different roster, same head coach, bigger budget. So what do? Well, they give a letter grade from A+ all the way down to players as they evaluate them. And given that letter grade, there's a number that is attached to it that they're willing to pay at that position. What I found most interesting about what he had to say was just how hard the tactics are for him in negotiation. Because one of the things that I immediately thought about, he addressed, which is an agent's going to look at this and say, wait, this is under market value. He is a starting corner in the ACC. He is a starting corner in the Big 12. He's a starting corner maybe even in the Big 10. But what Glasscock will say is, well, for us, he's a 5th corner. He's a backup. He's not a starter. This is what we're willing to pay him based on what we think he is. If you can get better, please, by all means, go get better. I don't want you to tell your client that, we're underpaying him. I want you to tell your client that this is who we think he is. And if he would like to be an LSU Tiger, by all means, come on down. But this is going to be the limit of what we're willing to spend. So what generally happens is if you're a good agent, you tell your client, look, this is probably the best program. This is the best money. And generally speaking, most players take the most money. They don't take the best program. Why would they do that? Because the money right now is more important than the championships or even the promise of money later. And this is also not exclusive to 1 year. So let's say that you are a 5th corner at LSU and you take money that is beneath market value. If you're on a team that wins, right, and you play as much as a 5th corner does, which is not probably every game, but just not as often as the top 4 corners, you might look around and expect to get a retention bonus or a raise. That might not be what Glasscock thinks he ought to do. He might try to pay you the same amount of money because they're not raising the value of your position year over year like some others would do. Some of us get a cost of living increase 3% each and every year. Others do not, right? Sometimes you just get a straight raise. Sometimes you don't get anything at all. And these contracts need to be redone and renegotiated every year, which is also good for Glasscock because he's got a whole spreadsheet and contract details that stretch back as long as 2021, I hope, that tell him what the market has done for them. And that is what LSU, and probably other programs, are doing. They are playing in the market that they set, which is a market for one program. Now, you can't be extremely cheap, right? Otherwise, you're not going to get any players. And if you overpay a bunch of people, that might actually work, or it could be sorry. I think that Ole Miss overpaid a bunch of people in 2024, but that team didn't make the college football playoff. 2025 probably got exactly what you paid for because you doubled down on this. And there was a lot of chatter coming out of Oxford about whether or not this was working because it felt like a flop. It felt like they spent a lot of money to do nothing, especially with Arizona State showing what it was capable of coming out of the Big 12. And then going into this year, looking at programs like James Madison and Tulane, if you are Missouri, you might start to wonder where your money's going. If you're A&M and you made the playoff, you might be looking around going, wait, what do you mean Ole Miss has a better program than we do? What do you mean Ole Miss gets to keep going through the college football playoff and we have to go home? To say nothing of programs that haven't made the playoff, like USC, like Wisconsin, like Florida. And I keep going down a bunch of programs that we expect to be good that just haven't been. And I think that what Glasscock is doing is going to help the program. It's certainly going to help the donors feel better about how you're spending their money. But if you miss on, one or two of these players that you're playing market value, or what you think is market value, top tier for, let's say, a starting corner, then that's on you, which, again, comes back to talent evaluation, not talent acquisition. One of the other things I thought was interesting, as you pointed out, is, look, if we have a guy that is, say, a fifth corner backup, but we want him, and we got to come up with a little bit more, excuse me, than we otherwise would. He says he takes it out of the pocket of the starter, which is to say, we had to go get somebody that could help us fortify your position because you weren't everything that we expect you to be. So you're getting a pay cut, or probably what happens is you let that player go into the portal and you pay the next guy a little less than you paid the guy before so that you can have this other backup behind him in case things go squirrely. It's just good negotiating tactics, but it is nice to hear Billy Glasscock talk about these things even in closed doors. And they make a lot of sense, which is even, more. I have more confidence in LSU hearing those things. Got a set of principles, you got a set of ideals, you got a system you like, you go with that, and you go with God.